What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to have a little bit of a chat about the leaders from Romance Dawn. What we've seen is, and I think this is fair to say, an explosion in the value of the leaders from Romance Dawn. So what I want to do in this particular video is I want to look at what all of them are selling for. I want to see whether they're trending up or down, and I want to see basically just what's going on with these leaders from Romance Dawn. Now, there is a very important caveat, and I do really believe this is worth saying before we get rolling. You don't need these. And I'm not saying don't buy them, and I'm not saying never buy them. I'm saying you don't need these. These are leaders. The regular leaders are super duper 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 cheap. There's no real value in the regular leaders. Like, we all know at this stage, I don't think it's particularly a secret I'm giving away here, that the best of the leaders is Roronoa ZORO. That is the best leader in the game right now. And incidentally, going into OBO2, it's the best leader in that format as well. So you might be thinking, all right then, well, that Roronoa ZORO leader, that must be a super duper duper expensive card. No, it's a 30 cents card. The market price over on TCG Player is a 30 cents card. So, if you want to play Roronoa ZORO, there are other cards, like the super rare character Roronoa ZORO, that even the regular version you are going to have to spend a little bit of money on. You don't need to spend money on the leader, ladies and gentlemen. The leader is ridiculously cheap. So what you can do is wait. Because you can still play with a cheaper leader. And I don't intend going into in this video because we've kind of talked about it before, but I've made videos about the fact that they are going to reprint Romance Dawn. The super duper duper short version is that this is a new card game, and set one of a new card game, you're not trying to sell product, you're trying to hook new players. And you cannot hook new players by having a set which is too scarce and no one can get hold of. Yes, I know they're not keeping up with demand right now, because demand is very, very silly. But there is going to come a point, probably not that long in the future, where this set is readily available, because Bandai have to keep reprinting it, because, and I've said this before, but let me say it again, you are not trying to sell Romance Dawn, you are trying to use Romance Dawn to hook people. That is the whole point of a new TCG. So yes, they are going to keep reprinting it, they are going to print as much as they possibly can, and the prices are going to fall, and when the prices fall, then you can go and pick up your leaders. But I know some of you want to pick them up now, and I do know that some of you really want to know how much they're all worth, etc. So that's where we're going today, and let's be clear. I'm telling you don't need them, and I'm telling you can wait, and I'm telling you the price is going to go down at some point when the reprints catch up, and this is all true. But if you want to buy them now, go buy them now. I'm not telling you what to do. This is a bit of a friendly advice on your old pal Wassy. So if you want a nice cheap leader, your best bet right now is King. Now, I know there's been a lot of discussion over on the Facebook group as to exactly how good King is or not. That's very much up to you guys. It's not my favourite one. If you've got 10 Don cards on your field, give all your opponent's characters minus 1,000 power. It's basically stall, 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 and then when you've all got full Don, it's actually really good. But it kind of takes a while to get there. This is a $32 card. And you can see that it trended down initially and is now trending up. Now, the last sold was actually $30 rather than $35, but we are still seeing a trend up. It fell initially because nobody liked it. It's now creeping up because all the leaders are creeping up, and because this is one that people are starting to talk about a little bit. But it is very much worth pointing out that I really do believe that this one especially, there is going to come a point where it's going to be very, very cheap. Now, coming in at number 7, we've got KAIDO. I'm a fan of KAIDO, but honestly, I prefer the starter deck leader than this one. It is your dual color leader, purple and blue, and Don X1 on your turn once per turn. When your opponent's character is KO'd, add up to 1 Don card from your Don deck and set it as active. It's purple, it gets extra Don, that's, it's not particularly unheard of. Again, this one dropped initially because it was not one that really saw a huge amount of play. It was not a terribly hyped card, but you'll notice that since then it has been creeping up quite steadily. And it's kind of holding at $45 for now. The last 3 solds were $45. You can see the graph starting to level off at the top there. But this is another one that I could see kind of going up more in the short term, but I do believe in the long term this one's going to start falling. And we see a similar kind of thing with KOUZUKI ODEN. Activate main once per turn, you can trash a Land of Wano type card from your hand and set up to 2 of your Don cards as active. Really nice for reusing your Don during your turn, but you do have to keep trashing cards from your hand, which you're just not always able to do so. And what we saw here was that this started off as a nice cheap card, went down a tiny bit initially, climbed quite fast, but is kind of leveling off. It's creeping up to about a $50 card, but it's doing it pretty slowly, honestly. It's not getting there that quickly. So this is another one. It sees a little bit of play, don't get me wrong, but it's not exactly amazing. It's not one that people are going crazy for. And again, I do believe this one is going to be quite cheap in the long run. We're just not there yet. And finishing out the bottom half at number 5, we've got Monkey D. Luffy, which, you know, it's not going great in terms of value. This one is kind of holding, and has been holding for a little while. Now, it's your dual color green and red. Activate main once per turn, pay 4. You can set up to 1 of your Supernovas or Straw Hat Crew type character cards with a cost of 5 or less to active, and give it an extra 1,000 power. You basically activate a 5 cost character for a 4 cost. And sometimes that's going to absolutely be worth it, let's be clear. And they do get the power bump as well. This seems to me, and I could be wrong, tell me in the comment section if you disagree, this seems to me to be kind of a Luffy thing. Like, everybody loves Luffy. Luffy is the main character. So you give an alternate art Luffy leader, that's going to make people get a little bit excited. And this doesn't have the same kind of profile we've seen from a lot of the others. Here we saw a jump pretty quickly, but then it started falling and it's kind of leveled off. This one doesn't seem to be trending up. And you will see that the last few souls are a little bit above the market price, so maybe it is going to start going up again. But this one is very much a case of it's still Luffy, so, you know, people are always going to love Luffy. Now, one that we've seen a big jump for lately is Crocodile. Now, this is a blue leader, but it's also a purple leader. Dawn X1, when you activate an event, you may draw a card if you have 4 or less cards in your hand and haven't drawn a card using this leader's effect during this turn. So you've got to play around with event cards, but you also get to draw a bunch of cards. And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, drawing a bunch of cards is a very, very good thing. So that's quite nice. We started off quite cheap with this one. This was a very cheap card. This one is actually spiking a bit lately. It started off as one of the cheaper leaders, and it's just been going up and up and up. Now, it's currently got a market price of $70, but you'll see that the latest sales are not representing that. We're looking at $80 and $75. This is a card that's climbing quickly. And it's a decent enough card, don't get me wrong, but it's not up there with some of the other cards we've seen, certainly in terms of leaders. So it's going to be really interesting to see whether this one keeps climbing or whether this one does level out a little bit. Now, Donquixote Doflamingo, I am delighted about this. This is the one that I pulled in my box. And at some point, I really should try and actually sell this one, because I'm convinced these cards are all going to get a lot cheaper. And this is not a leader I have any real interest in playing. Not to be mean, it's just not my kind of leader. But what we've got here is a card that started off as $30. It's crept up to $95. And the last few sold to $90, $198. This is a card that is climbing quickly. Now, it's got Don X2. When attacking, pay 1. Reveal a card on the top of your deck. If it's a 7 Warlords of the Sea type character of a cost of 4 or less, play it rested. So you're basically paying 1 cost for a chance to play a 4 cost card for free. And if you hit this a few times during the game, you're going to be playing a bunch of extra characters for free. This is a card that's seen a bit more play and a bit more love and a bit more hype as time goes by. And the price of this is climbing very steadily. And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, this is one, if anybody wants to, I'll sell this like $80, all right? If anybody wants to buy this, this is the kind of card. It's a terrible time to be buying singles. I've told you that super clearly on this channel. But it's actually a good time to be selling singles, especially like alternate art cards that you don't really want, but you can always buy back later cheaper. This is one I need to start getting rid of, really. And then in at number 2, we've got the alternate art Trafalgar Law. Now, this one is your dual color red and green. Activate main once per turn, pay 2. If you have 5 characters, Return one of your characters to your hand, and then play a character with 5 or less from your hand that is a different color. But remember, you're only allowed to play red and green in a red and green leader deck, so you pick up a red and play a green, or you pick up a green and play a red. Very Christmassy themed. But basically, you're paying 2 cost to play a 5 cost character. And I know you're really replacing more than playing, I get it, but this is still a good leader that's seen a bunch of hype. Now, interestingly enough, this again started super low. This one has actually jumped up a lot over the past few weeks. It's gone up steadily, still climbing. It's got a market price of 95, and to be fair, the last few solds are around 95, so it is looking, and we're not there yet, but it is looking like over the next couple of weeks, there is a very good chance that Donquixote actually jumps up over Law and takes second place in this list and drops Law down to third. That is something that I am very, very much tracking. But then we end up at number 1, and it's Roronoa ZORO. And I told you at the start of the video it was going to be Roronoa ZORO. It was always going to be Roronoa ZORO. This was always going to be number 1. It was, as Thanos might say, inevitable. It's just great. And it's one of these leaders I'm always really interested. When a card game starts, when we see our first few reveals, it's always super interesting to see what cards are and try and think about how good they're going to be. And this is a card that didn't look great when we first saw it. Oh, Don X1, all your characters gain 1,000 power on your turn. But in a game where the entire goal is to just get as much power as your opponent, because remember the tie goes to the attacker, and try and kind of burst through, yeah, an extra 1,000 power, forcing your opponent to always have an extra 1,000 to try and counter you or have extra blockers. Yeah, that ends up being a really big deal. It's the best deck in OPO1. Spoiler alert, it's the best deck in OPO2. And this really is a card which it's not probably going down anytime soon. But when the reprints come, it is going to get a bit more sensible. And there is going to come a point where better leaders are revealed. And better leaders are released. And there's going to come a point where this card isn't good. And when we get to that stage where Romance Dawn has been reprinted lots and lots, and we will, and we get to a stage where this is no longer the new hip leader, and I'm sorry, but if we're like 5 sets in and this is still the best leader, then the card designers are, well, they need to be getting some better leaders. Let's put it that way. There is going to come a point where this actually becomes a pretty cheap card. And I'm looking forward to that day. Right now, it's not. The market price is $145, but I really don't think that tells the story. Because if you look at the last 3 souls, you've got 180, 160, and 190. I've seen a bit of hype about this being a $200 leader. It's not a $200 leader. We are not there yet. It's not a $200 leader. But if you look at the graph, yeah, there is a very good chance that this becomes a $200 leader. This could get there. And we can even go and have a look over on eBay, just in case you're not trusting TCG Player. And we see a similar kind of thing. The last sold over there was $172, which kind of puts it about in line. Again, if you look at the most recent solds on TCG Player, 180, 160, 190. So a sold on eBay for 170 actually makes perfect sense. Again, this is one of these situations where the market price isn't the best thing to look at, because actually the market price is a bit of a lie. And it's not because TCG Player are lying to us, it's because the market price on TCG Player is reacting to the last X number of solds, and because the solds are keeping increasing in price, it takes a little while for the market price to actually go and catch up to what's happening with these raw sales. But my point very simply is, this is still climbing. It's not a $200 leader yet. I'm not seeing anybody paying $200 for this, but it is getting there. And I do believe at some point in the not too distant future, it will get there. And, yeah. The fact that it remains the best deck when we get into OPO2 is a very good reason why I don't think this is going away anytime soon. So there we go. That's what's going on with the leaders. That's how much they're selling for at the moment. And, yeah. If you want to be picking up these alternate arts, my advice sincerely is wait. We'll get reprints of Romance Dawn, and the price will drop. If you don't want to wait, that is absolutely fine. But you are going to pay more than you necessarily need to if you're not in the mood to wait. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about this. I want to know how excited you are. I want to know which of these leaders you pull. I want to know which of these leaders you want. I want to know anything you want to tell me. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk One Piece and card games and all kinds of things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus pods, all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.